1864, St. Petersburg. A man sits in his freezing apartment, writing furiously by candlelight. His name is Fyodor Dostoevsky, and what he's writing will predict the greatest threat humanity will face 160 years later. Not war, not disease, not poverty. Something far more insidious. The death of human will itself. In his novella, Notes from Underground, Dostoevsky described a future where human beings would be reduced to piano keys. Predictable, mechanical, programmable, where every choice could be calculated, every desire anticipated, every rebellion anticipated and neutralized. He called it the Crystal Palace, a perfect system, a rational paradise, where human beings would have everything they need, except one thing, the ability to choose irrationally, to be unpredictable, to be human. Dostoevsky wrote, "Man is sometimes extraordinarily, passionately in love with suffering, not because he's broken, but because suffering proves he's free, that he can choose against his own interest, against logic, against the algorithm. And here's what terrifies me. In 2025, we're building exactly what Dostoevsky warned about. AI systems that predict our behavior, anticipate our needs, optimize our choices, making us more comfortable, more efficient, more programmable. Piano keys in the Crystal Palace. And most people don't even notice, because it feels like freedom. But Dostoevsky knew better. He knew that the most dangerous prison is the one you don't want to leave." Fyodor Dostoevsky, 1821 to 1881, Russian novelist, philosopher, prophet of the modern psyche, author of Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, The Idiot. To most, he wrote about crime, punishment, faith, suffering. But to those who read closely, he wrote about something else. The war between human freedom and systemic control. Between the irrational soul and the rational machine. Between what makes us human and what makes us useful. Dostoevsky lived through the rise of scientific materialism. The belief that human beings are just biological machines. That consciousness is just chemistry. That free will is an illusion. He watched intellectuals build utopian theories, perfect societies based on reason and calculation, and he saw where it led, to the gulag, to the totalitarian state, to the reduction of human beings into units of production. But his warning went deeper than politics. He warned about something more fundamental, the seduction of predictability, the comfort of being known, the ease of letting something else decide for you. For over a century, scholars treated his work as psychology, as theology, as literature. But Dostoevsky wasn't just writing stories. He was issuing warnings, prophecies, about a future where humanity would be seduced into surrendering the one thing that makes us alive, our ability to be unpredictable, unreasonable, genuinely free. Tonight, we decode his prophecy and discover why AI is not the future he feared. It's the present he predicted. This is the Hidden Codex, where buried wisdom meets modern reality. Before we descend into this, if you sense that something about modern life feels off, controlled, predicted, if you've noticed that your choices seem to narrow year by year, if you're ready to see what's really happening beneath the surface of convenience and optimization, subscribe to the Hidden Codex. Turn on notifications, because what Dostoevsky saw in 1864, most people still refuse to see today, even though it's everywhere, even though it's inside your pocket, even though it's shaping your thoughts right now. Let's continue. Dostoevsky called his protagonist the underground man. a bitter, isolated intellectual who refuses to participate in the rational utopia being built around him. Everyone else in society has accepted the new order, the scientific paradise, the crystal palace, a world where human behavior can be reduced to mathematical laws, where suffering can be eliminated through reason, where every need can be satisfied through calculation. The intellectuals of his time believed they had discovered the formula for human happiness. Give people what they need, remove obstacles, organize society rationally, and humanity will thrive. But the underground man sees something they don't. He sees that this paradise is a prison, because it removes the one thing that makes life worth living, the freedom to choose badly, to act against your own interest, to say no just because you can. Dostoevsky wrote, "What man wants is simply independent choice, whatever that independence may cost and wherever it may lead. Not comfort, not optimization, not the most rational outcome, but choice itself, even if it's destructive, even if it's irrational, even if it leads to suffering, because without that ability, you're not human, you're a mechanism, a piano key being struck by an invisible hand." And here's where it connects to AI. Every recommendation algorithm, every personalized feed, every predictive system, they're all built on one assumption: that human behavior is predictable, that, given enough data, we can calculate what you'll want, what you'll click, what you'll buy, what you'll believe. The algorithm watches you. It learns your patterns, your preferences, your weaknesses, and then it serves you exactly what it predicts you want. Not what's good for you, not what's true, not what you consciously chose, but what the data says you'll engage with. And here's the terrifying part. It works. For most people. Most people do become predictable, do follow the pattern, do accept the recommendation, because it's easier, more comfortable, more efficient. The algorithm removes friction, eliminates choice fatigue, optimizes your experience. But Dostoevsky saw what this does to the human spirit. It doesn't enslave you with chains. It enslaves you with convenience. It makes you forget you were ever free. The underground man says, "I admit that twice 2 makes 4 is an excellent thing. But if we are to give everything its due, twice 2 makes 5 is sometimes a very charming thing too." Think about that. He's not denying mathematics. He's not rejecting reason. He's saying that the ability to choose wrongly, irrationally, against pure logic is what makes us human. It's the remainder that can't be calculated, the variable that breaks the equation, the spark that refuses to be predicted. And AI is designed to eliminate that remainder, to smooth out the irrationality, to make human behavior computable, profitable, controllable. So how does this work in practice? Let's say you're scrolling through a social media feed. The algorithm has analyzed 10,000 data points about you, your clicks, your pauses, your engagement patterns, your heartbeat when certain images appear, the micro-expressions your camera catches, the time of day you're most vulnerable to certain content. It knows what will keep you scrolling, and it serves you exactly that. Not what's true, not what's important, not what you consciously want, but what the data predicts you'll engage with. And here's what happens. Slowly, imperceptibly, you start to believe those predictions. You start to become what the algorithm thinks you are. Your choices narrow, your interests calcify, your behavior becomes predictable. You become the piano key, and you don't even realize it's happening, because it feels like choice. The feed asks, "Do you want to see more of this?" And you say yes. But Dostoevsky would ask, is it really your choice? Or is it the choice the system calculated you would make? Is it your desire? Or the desire the algorithm implanted and then satisfied? And once you can't tell the difference, the Crystal Palace is complete. You're free to choose anything, as long as it's what the system predicted you'd choose. Now here's where Dostoevsky gets even darker. The underground man doesn't just reject the Crystal Palace. He does something disturbing. He deliberately chooses suffering. He insults people who care about him. He sabotages his own happiness. He acts against every rational interest he has. He goes to a party where he knows he'll be humiliated. He pursues a woman he doesn't even like, just to prove he can make irrational choices. He destroys opportunities for connection, success, peace. Not because he's insane, but because it's the only way he can prove he still has a will. That he's not just responding to stimuli like a biological machine. That somewhere inside him, there's still something unpredictable, uncontrollable, free. Dostoevsky wrote, "Man will never renounce real suffering, that is, destruction and chaos." Read that again. Man will never renounce suffering, not because he loves pain, but because suffering is proof of freedom. If you can only choose what benefits you, what optimizes you, what the algorithm predicts, then you're not choosing. You're just executing a program. But if you can choose to suffer, to struggle, to go against the rational path, then you're still human, still free, still alive. And this is what AI cannot understand. It can predict your preferences, anticipate your needs, optimize your outcomes. But it cannot comprehend why someone would choose against all of that. Why someone would delete the app that's perfectly optimized for them. Why someone would reject the recommendation that's statistically ideal. Why someone would choose the harder path, just because it's theirs. That's the remainder, the incalculable, the human, the thing that makes life worth living, and the thing the system is designed to eliminate. 3 years after writing Notes from Underground, Dostoevsky wrote Crime and Punishment. Different story, same warning. The protagonist, Raskolnikov, is a brilliant young man. He develops a theory, a perfectly rational theory, that humanity is divided into 2 categories, the ordinary and the extraordinary. The ordinary must follow moral laws, but the extraordinary, they have the right to transgress, for the greater good, for progress, for the future. It's a utilitarian calculation, one life sacrificed for the benefit of many, perfectly logical, and it leads him to murder an old woman, a pawnbroker, someone society would barely miss. He justifies it with reason, with calculation, with cold, pure logic. But after the murder, something breaks inside him. Not his logic. His logic remains intact. What breaks is something deeper, his soul. Because logic without soul is monstrous. Calculation without conscience is tyranny. And systems without human irrationality are prisons, even if they're comfortable. Especially if they're comfortable. Because the most effective prison is the one you don't want to leave. The one that gives you everything you need. Except the one thing you can't name. Freedom. Dostoevsky saw this pattern everywhere. In political systems. In philosophical systems. In technological progress. The pattern was always the same. First, a promise of paradise. No more suffering, no more chaos, no more uncertainty. Just reason, just calculation, just optimization. Then the slow erosion of will. The gradual acceptance that being predicted is easier than being free. That following the algorithm is more comfortable than choosing for yourself. that surrendering your will is a small price for security, and finally, the realization, too late, that you've become something less than human, a function in someone else's equation, a data point in someone else's model, a piano key in someone else's composition, and the music being played isn't yours. Dostoevsky called this mentality the Grand Inquisitor. In The Brothers Karamazov, there's a parable. Christ returns to earth during the Spanish Inquisition. The Grand Inquisitor arrests him and tells him something shocking. You promised them freedom, but freedom is a burden too heavy for humanity to bear. We have corrected your work. We give them what they really want. Miracle, mystery, authority, control disguised as care, prediction disguised as service, optimization disguised as freedom. The Grand Inquisitor doesn't torture people into submission. He gives them what they want: certainty, security, the elimination of choice. And humanity accepts, gratefully, because it's easier, more comfortable, more rational. But Dostoevsky warns, once you accept that trade, you lose something you can never get back: the ability to be genuinely surprised by yourself, to discover you're capable of something you didn't predict, to choose a path the algorithm never saw coming. That's what makes life an adventure instead of a program. And AI, no matter how advanced, will always try to eliminate that adventure, because unpredictability is inefficient. Irrationality is a bug, not a feature, and freedom is a threat to optimization. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something truly unpredictable? Not rebellious for attention, not contrarian for its own sake, but genuinely surprising to yourself. Something that broke your own pattern. Something the algorithm wouldn't have anticipated. Something that served no purpose except it was your choice. For most people, it's been years, maybe decades, because we've become predictable. We've accepted the recommendations. We've optimized ourselves. We've become piano keys. And the music being played isn't ours. Your morning routine, predicted. Your entertainment choices, predicted. Your political opinions, predicted. Your relationships, predicted. Your career path, predicted. Even your rebellions, predicted. The algorithm knows you'll rebel. It knows when. It knows how. And it's already prepared the content to channel that rebellion into more engagement. You think you're fighting the system, but you're fighting exactly the way the system predicted you would. And that keeps you in the system. But here's what Dostoevsky understood. The human spirit resists. It always does. Not through grand revolutions, not through moral pronouncements, but through small, irrational acts of defiance. Choosing the book the algorithm didn't recommend. Taking the walk that serves no purpose. Having the conversation that won't optimize anything. Creating something no one asked for. Sitting in silence instead of consuming content. Choosing boredom over stimulation. These aren't productive. They're not efficient. They won't improve your metrics. But they prove something. That you still have a will. That you're not just a data point. That somewhere inside the Crystal Palace, there's still a human being. Unpredictable, irrational, free. And that's what terrifies the system. Not your anger, not your rebellion. Your ability to simply stop participating. To choose silence over engagement. To choose nothing over the perfectly optimized something. Because nothing can't be predicted. Nothing can't be monetized. Nothing breaks the algorithm. Dostoevsky spent years in a Siberian prison camp for the crime of reading forbidden books. In that prison, he saw human beings reduced to numbers, to labor units, to mechanisms. He saw what happens when a system treats people as predictable, controllable, optimizable. They break, not immediately, not violently, but slowly. They lose something essential, something that can't be named but can be felt, their humanity. And when Dostoevsky returned from that prison, he spent the rest of his life warning about it, warning that the greatest threat isn't the prison with bars. It's the prison without them, the one that feels like freedom, the one that gives you choices from a menu you didn't write, the one that knows you better than you know yourself. Now, let's put this all together. Dostoevsky spent his entire life exploring one question: what makes us human? And he discovered the answer isn't reason, isn't morality, isn't even consciousness. It's the ability to choose against reason, to act against self-interest, to embrace the irrational, the inefficient, the unpredictable, not as a bug, but as the core feature of human existence. That's the soul, and AI is designed to eliminate it, not through force, not through oppression, through convenience, through prediction, through making irrationality unnecessary. Why choose for yourself when the algorithm knows what you want better than you do? Why struggle with decisions when the system can optimize them for you? Why be unpredictable when predictability is so much more comfortable? Why suffer the burden of freedom when you can have the comfort of being known? Dostoevsky's answer is simple, because once you stop choosing, you stop being. You become a function, an input-output machine, a piano key in someone else's composition, and the music won't be beautiful. It will be efficient, calculated, perfect, and utterly inhuman. In his final novel, Dostoevsky wrote, "The mystery of human existence lies not in just staying alive, but in finding something to live for, not something to optimize for, not something to be predicted toward, not something the algorithm can serve you, but something you choose, even if it's irrational, even if it's inefficient, even if it leads to suffering, because that choice is yours, and nothing, no matter how intelligent, can take that from you, unless you give it away, for comfort, for convenience, for the promise of a crystal palace, where everything is perfect, and nothing is real." So, what does this mean for you, right now, in 2025, surrounded by systems that predict you, feed you, optimize you? It means Dostoevsky is asking you to pay attention, to notice when you're being predicted, when your choices are being narrowed, when your behavior is being optimized, not to reject technology, not to live off the grid, not to become the underground man hiding in bitterness, but to cultivate the one thing AI cannot touch: your capacity for genuine, uncalculated choice, the ability to surprise yourself, to do something for no reason other than you chose it, not because it benefits you, not because it's optimal, not because the data suggested it, but because in that moment of choice, you were free. And that freedom, Dostoevsky believed, is the only thing worth fighting for, even if it costs you everything, even if it leads to suffering, even if the whole world tells you you're being irrational, because rationality without freedom is just another name for slavery. And Dostoevsky refused to be enslaved, even by paradise, especially by paradise. Dostoevsky saw something in 1864, something most people still refuse to see, that the greatest threat to humanity isn't tyranny, it's comfort, the slow, invisible surrender of will, the gradual acceptance that being predicted is the same as being free. It's not. Prediction is the opposite of freedom. Prediction is control with a friendly interface. And once you see the difference, everything changes. The question is, are you ready to see it? Or will you stay in the crystal palace? Most people choose the palace. It's easier, safer, more comfortable. The algorithm knows what you like. The feed always has something new. The recommendations are always relevant. You never have to choose. You never have to struggle. You never have to be unpredictable. But you're still here, listening to a warning from 1864. So maybe you're different. Maybe you still have that remainder, that unpredictable, irrational, beautiful human remainder that can't be calculated, can't be optimized, can't be turned into a piano key. If this woke something in you, something that refuses to be predicted, hit that subscribe button, because here at the Hidden Codex, we don't optimize content for algorithms. We speak to the remainder, the part of you that can't be calculated, the part that's still human. Next time, we'll explore another warning buried in history, another prophet who saw what's coming, another voice from the underground. You don't want to miss it. Until then, stay unpredictable, because that's the only freedom they can't take, unless you give it away.